This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1, brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care. We want your car running newer, longer, with Firestone Complete Auto Care. I know it's 2018. I know everybody gets a ribbon now. Everybody gets a trophy now. Everybody gets a vote. Everybody needs to be heard. It's very millennial. Everybody gets an orange slice. Everybody gets a cupcake. There are no losers here. It's only about winners. Pats on the back. Everybody gets a vote. Everybody gets a voice. Everybody gets an orange slice. I understand it's 2018. Can't offend anybody. Can't offend anybody. But, you know what I like? Especially at the end of basketball games, I like total imbalance. Who's the best player? Give him the ball. Get the hell out of the way. Yeah, I'm okay with imbalance. I really am. I'm completely okay with imbalance. Because imbalance creates clarity. Everybody knows who's going to end this puppy. In the last two games, the biggest games in the last decade for the Houston Rockets, Chris Paul creates, touches, dribbles, decides everything. Mike D'Antoni has decided, Chris, end of these games, fourth quarter, it's your basketball. You make decisions. This is your team. It creates real clarity. Used to be that way in Boston with Bird, Lakers with Magic, Bulls with Michael Jordan. It's the way it is with LeBron's teams. It's your team. It's your ball. It's your decision. Clarity. Not everybody gets a ribbon. Not everybody gets an orange slice. Not everybody gets a vote. Not everybody touches it. I like that kind of basketball at the end of games. But Golden State, Silicon Valley, smarter than everybody. Skinny jeans, sharing, community. Everybody gets a voice. Whose team is this? Whose team? Whose shot? In the last two games, the biggest games for this dynasty, since Kevin Durant arrived, I've seen Quinn Cook. Draymond Green's got the ball, not a great dribbler. It was Kevin Durant bringing it up over to Klay Thompson. Houston has figured out, we're just going to give it to Chris Paul. He's our quarterback. Quarterbacks make decisions. Warriors can't figure out what the heck they are at the end of games. Sharing is caring is a real popular term. You know what my favorite term is? Give the ball to the best player. Get the hell out of the way. Mike D'Antoni's figured it out. What is Draymond Green doing with the ball at the end of the game? Can I ask you a question? Who's the best ball handler in the world? You know who's in the argument? Steph Curry. Who's the best shooter in the world? There is no argument. Steph Curry. Who's the best passer on the Golden State Warriors? No argument. Steph Curry. Why isn't Steph Curry taking the ball out of bounds and making every decision for the Warriors in the final 30 seconds? In the last two games for the Warriors, they can't figure out what to do. They're frenzied. They're lost. Draymond Green in the wing, running full speed. Quinn Cook taking a three. Kevin Durant bringing it up. Klay Thompson head down in the corner. This has been a great series for Mike D'Antoni because he's not afraid to be honest. We got one guy I really like who is super smart, tough as a $8 steak that I want with the ball in his hands. And he can also shoot. Chris Paul. He's my guy. He's my quarterback. Take it away. It's been a bad series for Steve Kerr. Out of bounds plays, a mess. Kevin Durant not listening. Late game execution, there is none. Clarity is what you're seeking at the end of the games. Houston has it. Confusion is the opposite of clarity. Confusion is cupcakes for everybody. Ribbons for the losing kids. Make sure everybody feels good. Sharing is caring. That's not why Kobe won titles, or Magic won titles, or Bird won titles, or MJ won titles. This has been a great series for Mike D'Antoni. These games can go either way. You realize that, right? I mean, we're a jumper from having a different series in both games. But the key in both games has been the last 90 seconds to 2 minutes. D'Antoni's not out thinking the room. Steve Kerr is. Let me shift gears to this. This is pretty remarkable. So when games end, I always tell you this, I just grab a box score, a stat sheet, and I look at things. If you didn't watch the game, this is interesting. Field goal percentage, check, Warriors. 3-point percentage, check, Warriors. Free throw percentage, again, better, check, Golden State. Rebounds, check, Golden State. Fast break points, Warriors. Points in paint, Warriors. Assists, Warriors. They won virtually every key stat. And oh, by the way, James Harden, the other team's best player, awful. How great does Mike Toney feel today? By the way, Golden State. Klay Thompson was pretty good, above his season average. KD had 29 points. Draymond Green, 15 rebounds. And Steph Curry wasn't terrible. If I told you you didn't watch the game, you had to do something at work, you didn't have time for the game, and I just told you this, hey, the Warriors, more rebounds, more assists, more fast break points, more points in the paint, shoot better field goals, shoot better free throws, shoot better threes. Klay Thompson, better game than average. Kevin Durant, 29. Draymond, 15 rebounds. And Steph had 22. Oh, by the way, James Harden was awful. You'd say, Golden State won by 20? I'd say, no. Houston won. Excuse me? Folks, dynasties, I know what you're saying in San Francisco this morning. Well, I mean, Colin, Kevin Durant sort of disappeared here. And, I mean, Steph Curry did. Dynasties, if you're a real dynasty, don't have to be perfect to win. Tom Brady against Atlanta threw a pick six. Had a 66 passer rating in the first half. They won. In both finals against the Utah Jazz, Michael Jordan and the Bulls shot a collective 43%. They won both. That's the way it works with dynasties. You don't have to play perfect to win. We, all of us have overstated this dynasty. I'm not saying Kevin Durant was money down the stretch, but he had 29. What you're seeing right now is Houston is tougher and hungrier and better late in games. And we have now found the flaw for this dynasty. We found it mentally, physically. The skinny jeans team, the suburban Warriors are getting pushed around. They're getting pushed around. Can you imagine Michael Jordan watching that game last night and thinking, you think these guys could hang with us? The Houston Rockets are pushing them around. The Houston Rockets are in their head. Listen, playoff basketball has always been for men, not boys. And the Silicon Valley, smarter than you, here's our latest social cause. It ain't working. Because Houston's rolling up their sleeves. Never forget this. The word dynasty. Just think about it for a second. Dynasty. Say it slowly. Dynasty. Nasty. Last 5 letters in dynasty. Nasty. Michael Jordan's Bulls were. So were Isaiah's Pistons. Bird's Celtics. Ray Lewis's Ravens. Terry Bradshaw's Steelers. Troy Aikman's Cowboys. Nasty. One team in this series is bringing the nasty. Bringing the ugly. Bringing the tough. Bringing the uncomfortable. It's not our current dynasty. I never thought I would say what I'm about to say. Mike D'Antoni's team is the toughest of 2 teams in the Western Conference Finals. Never forget, last 5 letters in dynasty. Golden State, you don't have any. Houston right now has all of it. Coming up next, did you see the moment? Did you see the moment in the game? Very interesting. Nice job by the network. TNT had a microphone. Steve Kerr, Kevin Durant talking. Kerr telling him a story. Were you thinking the same thing I was thinking? That's coming up next. Welcome back. Good to have you in. Loaded today. Malcolm Gladwell, Cuttino Mobley, Eddie House in a couple of minutes. So most great players and most great businesses aren't confused by what they are. They know what they are. Kobe knew what he was. Brady knows what he is. Peyton Manning, Nick Saban, Belichick. They're not going to apologize for it. Like great companies are the same way. Netflix knows exactly what they are. They're not into sports. They're not into sports. Okay? They produce stuff. TV shows. High end. They know what they are. Companies get into trouble when they forget what they are. Players get into trouble when they doubt who they are. The great ones always have a defined sense of self. And it was very interesting. Before the season and during the season, my friend Jason Whitlock kept saying about Kevin Durant, he's struggling with self-identity here. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, before the season, he was getting kind of these crazy tats. And he's like, what of like stars, and during the season, technicals and ejections, led the NBA, and we're like, he's not Rasheed Wallace. What? And Jason had this theory. He's like, he still doesn't quite know exactly who he is and what he is, and he's trying to explain it, and he's trying to tell you he's a dog, he's trying to tell you he's an alpha, and he's getting ejections, and he's getting these technicals, and he's tough for the media, and he's getting snappy, and that's not who he is. That's not who he is. Derek Jeter was not a yeller and a screamer. Kobe was not a yeller and a screamer. Michael Jordan, though, would punch a teammate. Who are you? Do you know who you are? And so Jason said this all year, and I was like, I don't know if it's true, but it's interesting that Durant, he doesn't quite know exactly, is he reliable, Mr. Unreliable? Does he want to be an alpha, or did he go to Golden State because he didn't always want to be an alpha? He didn't want to drive to the arena having to score 40, but he wanted to be a guy in Oklahoma City was the man, and Russell was the man, but he wanted to go to Golden State where he wasn't necessarily going to be the man. What? And so Jason Whitlock's theory was like, it's interesting. Again, I don't know if it's right, but it's interesting. Did you watch last night, Steve Kerr, Kevin Durant had this moment during the game? I think it's important. Listen to this.
When MJ was with the Bulls, we had a playoff game, and he kept trying to score. And he was scoring, but we weren't getting anything going. Phil Jackson said, "Who's open?" I said, "John Paxson." I want you to trust your teammates early. What you're doing is you're getting to the rim, and then you're trying to hit them. I want you to trust the first guy, and then move. Still attack, still look to score, but trust these guys, okay?
Okay, first of all, really awesome story that KD completely ignored because he's a lost puppy. He's a 7-foot puppy. He's lost. He's disappeared last two games, fourth quarter. He had 23 passes last night. I'm not talking assists, passes. 20 passes off his season average. A low for the playoffs. He's still trying to figure out who he is. He was getting all those technicals this year and all these ejections, and he got real snippy with the press. He's a good dude. That's not who he is. What are you doing? Everybody likes Kevin Durant. He's a good dude. He's not crazy. He was trying to be something he's not. And in this series, Oklahoma City, I want to be the man. But then why do you go to Golden State, which has like 3 other star players where you won't be the man? I like their style of play. That's why I went to Golden State. I like their style of play. But yet, Kevin, you passed only 23 times, which is the opposite of their Golden State style of play. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, and Magic knew who they were. Durant's 10 years into this career. He's trying to get teased and get ejected to be snippy, to prove that he's what he's not. He's a good dude. Everybody likes him. I'm an alpha. Not really. That's why you went to Golden State, to join a team where you didn't have to be the guy. Last 2 games, end of the game, he disappears. Never forget what Lee Jenkins said on our show. He's the one that wrote the really long article on Kevin Durant. He made a really interesting comment about 2 weeks ago on our show.
Durant's still a searcher. He's still somebody who seeks things out. When I think about LeBron, and they've sort of traveled a bit of a similar course where it took them a while to win that first one. They had to go somewhere where, it was more favorable, right? The odds were a little bit more favorable for them. They learned how to win somewhere. I think he's still the kind of person, just knowing him a little bit and the way he sort of seeks out different challenges, he could seek out something different at some point. I don't think that's beyond the realm of the possible. I'm not saying that would be next season or even the season after, but he's still somebody who may at some point want to show what he can do.
He's a searcher. He's still searching. And in this series, man, it's been obvious. He doesn't quite. There's a piece of video last night. This is a great shot by the TNT cameras of Steve Kerr yelling at him after he told him to pass. He's still screaming at him, pass. I mean, didn't Kevin Durant go to Golden State to be part of a team that passed? And now he goes to Golden State and he's the one guy that's not passing. He wanted to be the man. Or did he? Because he went to a team where he's not the man. And he's a good dude, but the league and ejections and technicals and snipping at reporters. And, I mean, he looks like a lost puppy in this series. He really does. He looks like a lost puppy. He doesn't know what he is. And what he is and what he should go to bed and think about on the plane and think about in practice is he is the best shooting 7-footer ever. We've never had a guy of that size. Dirk Nowitzki's close, that can put the ball on the deck, hit a 2, hit a 3, hit a dunk. That's what he is. That's what he is. Not a great rebounder, not a great defender, not a tough guy. Don't get ejected, don't get technicals, don't yell at the press. Not what you are. You're the world's best shooter. So shoot. Curry runs the team, you shoot. 3s, 2s, dunks, layups. You shoot. But don't hog the ball. Don't ISO the ball. Don't clog the lane. Don't do the bang, bang, dribble, 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 dribble. It's not who you are. Got a guy on the team, best in the world at that. His name is Steph Curry. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Colin, first we have some breaking news.
Oh, we do. I love breaking news.
Breaking news.
Chris Paul officially out for Game 6. According to the Rockets put this out, he is not going to play in Game 6. They are going to reevaluate him when they get back to Houston. I think it's like they're anticipating they're going to lose. It's like we'll evaluate him for Game 7 after we get back home.
Wow.
So he is officially out.
Wow. First of all, I'm going to get to this in a second. Not only wow, but I'm going to tell you, is Golden State over the last 2 to 3 years the luckiest team in the league when it comes to injuries? By the way, if Golden State gets to the finals and plays the Celtics are missing Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving. Wow.
So,
different series this morning.
Yeah, changes a little bit. So the Rockets, obviously a 3-2 lead, probably a little less confident right now. Wow. They won last night despite a really brutal game from James Harden. He went 0 of 11 from 3. He hasn't hit a 3 since the second quarter of Game 4.
I think he's 0 for his last 20 on 3.
He is.
God.
After the game, though, Harden said he doesn't feel like anything is wrong with his shot, and he's not worried. Here's what he said.
Okay.
Nothing. I'm just missing shots. But we're winning, and I'm trying to compete on the defensive end and do other things to, help my team win. But if we got a guy like Eric Gordon making shots, and being aggressive, who cares?
I like that. I'd keep shooting and I'd be a good teammate. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, he's not a Westbrook type where he's not a great shooter. He's a great shooter, so
he's
you
just
got to
off.
feel like they'll go down. But here's the problem. Now you don't have Chris Paul. So if he can't go 0 of 11 from 3 again without Chris Paul there to help him out, right?
Good God. We got, oh my heavens. Get that breaking news. I may just break this whole news down for the next 2 hours. Man, what a break for the Warriors.
Okay, speaking of the Warriors, despite the tough loss, their head coach Steve Kerr, surprisingly upbeat after the game. I'm not sure if maybe he knew that Chris Paul was not coming back from that because it was clearly severe, but he's feeling pretty good. Here's what he said after the game last night.
I feel great about where we are right now. And that may sound crazy, but I feel it. I know exactly what I'm seeing out there. and we defended them beautifully tonight. We got everything we needed. Just too many turnovers, too many reaches. And if we settle down a little bit, we're going to be in really good shape.
Wow.
Do you agree with Steve Kerr that they're close, or do you think they're in real trouble?
Well, I think what Steve Kerr is saying, you can certainly, because bottom line, Steve Kerr can say, well, KD had 29, Clay was over his season average, Draymond had 15 boards, and Steph was fine. And by the way, we won the battle of the boards. So it's not like they're not playing poorly. It's not like they're completely out of sorts. Now, Kevin Durant end of games is lost. I mean, Kevin Durant and Harden at the end of games are not even, I mean, Harden's a liability. I don't know if Kevin's a liability. Kevin's just invisible as the second best player in the league. But if I'm Steve Kerr, I can certainly talk myself, especially now, I can talk myself into, my guys are all playing good in spurts.
Yeah.
Nobody's outside of Kevin Durant last 7 minutes, last 2 games disappearing. I'm all good. Kevin did score 29.
And finally, the Cavs take on the Celtics in their own home game down 3-2 tonight. Their head coach, Tyronn Lue, isn't worried about the deficit in the series. In fact, he, like Kerr, loves his team's chances. Here's what he said on a conference call yesterday.
Yeah, that has to be our mindset. You know, I know we play well at home, but, you know, we have to beat them. And we can't just expect coming home and for our great fans and crowd that we're going to, you know, win the game. We got to play well, and we understand that. And I like what we've done the last 3 games defensively, even, you know, Game 5 in Boston yesterday. So if we continue to play the defense the way we've been playing, I do love our chances, and I know we'll shoot the ball better and play better offensively at home.
Yep, Cavs by 60 tonight.
Yeah, I think I knew where you stood on that one.
What's the spread on that game? About 7 or 8? What is the spread? I like the Cavs tonight.
It's not as big as the Warriors spread.
The Warriors spread,
which is, I think Vegas knew Chris Paul wasn't going to play because that was 10.5.
Yeah, and by the way, I'll take that's with no Chris Paul.
The line is 7. Tonight.
Yeah, no, I like the Cavs tonight. I do. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie
Let's
News.
bring on a man to argue with me. Eddie House is in the house, 11 NBA seasons. Okay,
what up?
We got breaking news.
I know.
Time out. Let's do it, John.
Breaking news.
Chris Paul out. What's it mean?
Everything.
Everything.
It means everything. Chris Paul was the pit bull out there last couple games, and you take some of that toughness away, and the guy makes big shots. He made a lot of tough big shots yesterday, a lot of them.
By the way, he's their best defensive guard. He's tough. He's the yeller, screamer on the court. Sometimes Harden can be a little aloof. He's the communicator on the court. He's the quarterback. He's taking the shots. He's the yeller. He's the tough guy. It's not just losing a player. It's like losing an identity. Like he has been the identity in the last 2 games in the second half.
I'll tell you what, though, too. As much as I was talking about how James Harden, you know, being the best player on the team needs to lead by example.
Right.
He needs to be the hardest worker defensively. Last 2 games he's been playing extremely good defense. Is that a reason why he's been kind of slacking a little bit offensively? Right now he can't win because people talk about his defense first. Then now they're talking about his offense. But I think he's been doing a great job defensively, setting the tone early. You look at that Game 4 game where he had the rip on KD.
Yeah.
Top of the key, played the pass lane, got 2 big steals. I think you need things like that moving forward. But without Chris Paul, it's a
Who do you like in the series now?
I still got to go with the Warriors. You know, until you defeat the champs.
Okay.
Until you defeat the champs, you got to roll with the champs.
First of all, if he can't, here's what's interesting. So, Rocket fans didn't want to hear Warrior fans make excuses about injuries when Andre Iguodala couldn't play and Clay was hurt.
Right.
Every Rocket fan's like, I don't want to hear about excuses. Okay, Rocket fans. Well, you're just missing Chris Paul. You still have Trevor Ariza, Harden, Mike D'Antoni, Clint Capella, Eric Gordon. I mean, you got also, I don't want to hear any excuses. Listen, man, sometimes pro sports is about attrition. The Warriors were banged up early in the series. Chris Paul's now hurt. And by the way, if he's not playing in Game 6, he's not going to be 100%.
Game 7.
You don't think he's playing Game 7?
I mean, if he's not playing in Game 6, then it's especially the hamstring. You know how delicate that is. If he pulled his hamstring, he's not going to be able to go on for Game 7.
Okay, let's shift gears to this. If you've not heard, Chris Paul is out Game 6. Good Lord, is this a game changer? I will say this. They're stacking these games like every other night, one-day rest. I will say this. Some of these guys look tired. Boston, Cleveland both look tired. Chris Paul's getting hurt. Andre Iguodala's hurt. Sometimes maybe 2 days rest in between these playoff games. I know everybody complains about it. These teams are playing hard for 40 minutes. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So I was talking about Kevin Durant. So this is the second best player in the world. Best shooting big in the game maybe ever. He's up there with Dirk Nowitzki, Larry Bird, puts it on the deck, can shoot mid-range threes. Last 2 fourth quarters, 8 minutes to go last night, 8 minutes to go previous game. Eddie, he is invisible. He's not part of the team. Come on now, you got it. He didn't take a shot in the final 4 minutes 2 games ago. Where was he for 8 minutes?
He was on the court, just he wasn't involved. Do you give Houston credit defensively for that? You can. Or do you take credit from KD and say, hey, he's not playing hard enough. He's not wanting it hard enough.
You got to go get the ball. You got to go get the ball. You got to move. You know this. You were a scorer. In the last 7 minutes of a game, if you were 6'11" with your shot, could I take you out of the game?
No.
No, you.
He could go wherever he wants to on the court. He could point, say, I'm going right here. There's nothing anybody could do about it. He'll be able to get his shot off. Does it go in? 50-50. But he'll be able to get a shot off. I think if you look at what's really been happening to the Warriors, though, is they've been turning the ball over. The big four. They got – I got some, I know you like stats. So you flash graphs. If I had a graph crew, I would have them throw this graph up there. But I just have my graph right here on my paper.
Okay.
So they have 26 in the last 2 games, 26 turnovers out of the team's 32, the big four. And out of the big four, one guy has the most, and that's Draymond with 11 out of the 26.
Why is he handling
in the last
the ball?
2 games? He's always handling the ball. But this is the thing too. I think they're not sharing the ball like they used to. Golden State is a beautiful brand of basketball we all come accustomed to watching. They move their bodies, move the ball. You look at, they only had, on Game 4, 12 assists on 30 field goals. That's not a Golden State team. You look at Game 5, 18 assists on 32 field goals. That's not a Golden State team. That's where Steve Kerr is saying, hey, let's get guys involved. Let's stop doing. I think he sarcastically said, this is where the league's going now with the ISO. I think he was talking to his team.
Saying basically, fellas, this isn't even who we are.
Right. We need to move the ball, move our bodies. And I think that's hurting. Giving the other team extra possessions, and that's taken away from you having a chance to get in your rhythm offensively and not playing your brand of basketball. I think that's why you see KD is kind of confused. And Kerr going up to him telling Michael got guys involved early. Maybe getting to him a little in his psyche a little bit. He's starting to think, and you can't play thinking. You have to react playing basketball. You think out there, but for the most part, you just react. You don't want to come down.
Great athletes are instinctive.
You don't want to be predetermined, like, okay, I'm going to come down, make this dribble, and then I'm going to pass to this guy. That usually ends up in a turnover or a failed play. So I think them not playing, you have to give Houston credit as well, because I think they're bullying the bully now. You know how Draymond goes out there being physical, and I think in the Game 4, one of the most, and if Houston wins this, you could say this is the play that changed it. The dunk on Draymond Green by James Harden. That was going right at the bully, saying, I'm not taking it. And now, from that point on, they are the more physical team. And we all know that bullies don't like to get bullied. That's the one thing you...
By the way, when Evander Holyfield got up to Tyson and punched back, Tyson couldn't handle it and bit his ear off. The bottom line is Mike had been a bully his whole career, and Evander Holyfield wasn't having any of it and hit him back and crowded him and hit back and could take Tyson's punches, and Tyson didn't like it. It was the first time nobody backed down from Mike Tyson.
Yeah, you see how
it got into his head.
Responded to that. Yeah.
He got into his head. Okay, let me ask you. This Boston thing's pathetic. They're 10-0 at home. They win by an average of 12.5. They go on the road. They're not only 1-6, they should have lost their one win. They were down. Philadelphia, J.J. Redick had a brain fart. What is it about Boston cannot even compete on the road? They're out of games 8 minutes in. Did you like playing on the road?
Yeah, I love playing on the road because we were able just to lock in, and it's just us against everybody else. There's no outside interference. People not calling, asking for tickets. You don't have to worry about making sure that your kids are there, everybody's there, got there safe to the game and things like that. You could just focus on, hey, this is our task at hand. this is my job. I'll be in for X amount of minutes. I got to make sure that I'm on point. And, it's not a bad thing. It looks bad on paper, but the year we won it, we didn't win in the first 2 series. We didn't win a road game at all. We were 0-6 on the road. We lost every game on the road versus Atlanta. Went 7. We won that series. Against Cleveland, lost every game on the road. Went 7. We won that series. We didn't win until we went to Detroit. We got 2 wins in Detroit and then 1 win in L.A.
Why is it so? I mean, are you intimidated by fans? Why the rims are still 10 feet? How can you have these wild mood swings?
I think for us, we were playing, but we were going against other teams that had pros on their team too that were trying to win, trying to move forward. It wasn't like it was just a cakewalk, and we should have just walked through these teams. They had pretty good players on their team at the time. Joe Johnson was on Atlanta. Mike Bibby was on Atlanta. Josh Smith
was on Atlanta, left-hander.
Yeah. And Childress was on it. Horford was on Atlanta. Then we know what Cleveland had that year. So those were tough teams. I think that for the young guys, maybe they missed their special. Sometimes you have a pregame meal, the same one. I used to have the same one. That can throw you off, man. You want your rhythm. You creatures of habit, and you want to be comfortable when you're doing what you're doing. And sometimes that can throw you off. I'm making no excuses.
Mommy, I didn't get my sea bass before the game. Come on, man. You're a professional millionaire athlete.
The bed might be too stiff.
Come on.
Might have your lower back hurting a little bit.
Come on. All right, Eddie House, good seeing you. Coming up next, we're not banging on Golden State. They're the luckiest dynasty of all time. It is official with the breaking news that Chris Paul is out for Game 6. I guess sometimes our kids let us down.
And Boston just can't win a game unless Mom makes them a home-cooked meal and they're staying in their nice, comfortable bed. Because you put Boston on the road and they miss dunks and layups and everything. I want to get back home. I'm not very good on the road. It's a hotel and I have to sleep by myself, and Mom doesn't make me a meal.
My bad. Sometimes that team that we know is eventually going to be good just isn't ready to be special yet. All right, I'm a little tough on the Celtics. Game 6 tonight, Celtics at Cleveland. The at part is significant because Boston's the only city in America that spells at with an L. Yeah, they're 1-6 on the road, and the league was so used to them losing on the road, it actually happened. Confetti came from the tile, and Philadelphia at home actually lost. Listen, Fitzy, I'm not asking for a win. Listen, Sully, I don't need a victory. Listen, O'Shea and O'Callahan, I don't need a W. I'm just asking for you to be competitive on the road for 9 minutes. Look at the chart. You're not even competitive on the road. That's all we're asking for here. I don't want to hear about LeBron. LeBron won 2 games in Toronto. They were the number 1 seed in the East. I don't want to hear about LeBron. Gritty, Indiana, at 1. LeBron's got 61 career road wins. LeBron's all good on the road. Listen, all comedians are good when they can pack the theater with their fans. How do you deal with the drunk heckler? That's what the road is. That is what the road is. It's uncomfortable. Boston, no excuses. Just give me like 25 minutes of competitive basketball tonight. That's all I'm asking. All right, the breaking news today, and it is breaking news, and it is substantial. Chris Paul, who has often been the best basketball player for either team on the floor, is out for Game 6. Uh-oh, Houston, we've got a problem. Not James Harden, Chris Paul is out. This is the luckiest team in the world. Think about this. Let's go back to 2015. They meet the Cavs in the finals. Kevin Love's out for it, and Kyrie Irving gets hurt in Game 1. It still takes the Warriors 6. In 2017, second round against Utah, Rudy Gobert gets hurt. In the Western Conference Finals, they face the Spurs and Kawhi Leonard. Spurs up by 20, gets hurt. And they lose. Then last year, first round against the Spurs, no Kawhi Leonard. Second round against New Orleans. This year, no Boogie Cousins. And now no Chris Paul at the end of this series. And oh, by the way, if they played Boston in the finals, they wouldn't have Kyrie and Gordon Hayward. Good God, the Warriors' sixth man is a voodoo doll. This is incredible. In fact, I could make an argument injuries have even worked out in Golden State's favor when they're on their own team. The reason Kevin Durant could come over, because Steph Curry back in, 2012 got hurt, and they were able to pay him a very small contract, and he became the two-time MVP of the league on a mid-level player salary. I mean, good Lord, what a stroke of good fortune for the Warriors and misfortune for the Rockets. This is incredible, a complete and utter game changer. You know, what is really interesting about this, it really jumps out to me, is that I was really I try not to root, okay? And I know what you're saying. Colin, you're rooting for Brady. I had no problem when Brady loses games. I had no problem when my friend Lane Kiffin got fired. I have no problem saying, I think LeBron has no chance against Golden State, a slightly better chance against Houston. You notice there's a trend usually with LeBron and Tom Brady. I talk about them a lot and like them because they're the greatest arguably ever in the history of their respective sports. I'm not telling you Rudy Gay is great. I'm not telling you Kirk Cousins is an all-time great. Yeah, I'm telling you Messi, Ronaldo, Serena, Federer, Brady, LeBron are all-time greats. Generally in sports, we know and we agree on who's great. In fact, we generally agree on who's really, really good. You can see it, I can see it. Chris Paul has been one of the exceptions. Players bag on him. I've had players come on the show bag on him. Media bags on him. Fans bag on him. Who's been the best player in this series consistently? It's been Chris Paul. It's been Chris Paul. I couldn't be happier. By the way, I've said this often. People get divorced. People leave companies. Check back a couple years after a divorce, see who's doing well. Okay, the Clippers didn't make the playoffs. Interesting. The timing's interesting. Blake Griffin has deteriorated rapidly. DeAndre Jordan, not quite the same player. Who left? All of them. Chris Paul. Chris Paul goes to Houston. Do you remember what happened to Houston last year in the playoffs? They quit. 5 games out, blown out. Smoked. How much did they lose by? 30? Chris Paul comes. They're now leading in the Western Conference Finals. Don't forget this. They're leading 3-2 when he got hurt. We almost always agree on who's great. I mean, almost always, right? And we even agree on who's very good. I've been on Chris Paul for years and taken nothing but a dirt sandwich. Because Chris Paul, as I always claimed, played with kooky Maduki Blake Griffin, one-dimensional DeAndre Jordan, and for a franchise in Los Angeles, the number 2 franchise in the town in which I live now, that's always been a little off. That's why I've always supported Doc Rivers. He adds stability to an unstable relationship and a franchise for years. The best player, the biggest, most valuable, dominant, consistent, great player in this series has been Chris Paul. Good for him. It's like you work long enough, you grind long enough, you put your head down, you can get criticized. But eventually, all the years I've been broadcasting, the best people, the hardest working people, it may take a while. They may have a bad boss now. They may work at a bad company now. They may have a jerky agent now. You eventually find the right spot. Chris Paul finally found the right coach, the right city, the right system, the right teammates. Good for Chris Paul. Could not be happier for any player in the league right now. He's deserved this for years. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1, sponsored by Firestone Complete Auto Care. Keep your car running newer, longer. Breaking news, Chris Paul is out for the Houston Rockets Game 6, if you're just tuning in. This is a massive, massive story. And, I want to start with this. I talk about this all the time. What is valuable? The most valuable thing in my life is actually my health. It's not my kids, because if I'm not healthy, I can't be a dad. If I'm in the hospital all day, I can't function as a dad. If I'm in the hospital all day, I can't function as a husband. If I'm in the hospital day, I can't provide for my family. The most valuable thing in my life is my health. It's not my kids. I can't father if I'm not functioning. My mom used to be a nurse. She used to say it all the time. Like, if you don't have your health, your life discombobulates. You can't husband. You can't father. You can't brother. You can't sister. You're not dependable. You can't work. You can't provide. What is valuable? That's why I'm always yelling and screaming when these Westbrook and Hardens get MVP. I'm not doubting the talent. Forget MVP of the NBA. Forget MVP of the Rockets. James Harden isn't the most valuable guard in a two-guard backcourt. Are you watching these games? It's not about points, bro. We have pieces of video. This is what I was yelling at. I know what you're saying. MVP's a regular season award. Yeah, I actually watch regular season games. And when I watch regular season games, who was the guy that was yelling and the traffic cop and talking in the huddles? It was Chris Paul. Who was the verbal guy? It was Chris Paul. Harden's always been aloof. Is that part of leadership? I don't know. I think talking is part of leadership. When you watch the Rockets, Chris Paul's also the better defender. He's the alpha. He's more physical. He'll get in Steph Curry's face. Harden tends to be passive. I don't know. Do you think physicality is valuable? I do. The Rockets are now 6-0 in the playoffs after last night's awful game by Harden. 6-0 in the playoffs in James Harden's 6 worst playoff games. We have it right now. In his 6 horrible playoff games, they've won by 20, 22, 18, 13, 10, and 4. Westbrook and Harden are gifted. They're not that valuable. They're not verbal. They're not leaders. They're not talkers. They're solo acts. They're ISO acts. They're gifted acts. They're not that valuable. They're 6-0 with 5 blowout wins when Harden's awful. This year, look at the wins and losses. When Harden and Paul were together, they were 50-8. When Harden was gone, 15-9. They can still win without him. If you were dropped off a spaceship into America, plopped in front of a TV, forced to watch this series, you could come to only one conclusion. The heart and the soul of the Rockets is Chris Paul. He's the talker. He's the traffic cop. He's the alpha. He's the dog. He's in the huddle. He's on the court. He's getting guys pumped up. He's getting in Steph Curry's face. He's the go-to guy on shots. He's the better defender. You could come to no other conclusion. But people have their biases, and people, it's the Slam magazine-ization of basketball. Who hit the jumper? He's the best player. James Harden isn't even MVP of his own backcourt. Forget the league. Forget his roster. Last year, this team had no heart in the playoffs. They died. They quit. This year, they're beating Golden State for that very reason. They have no quit. They're all dog. Why are they beating Golden State? Golden State's players are playing well. Draymond had 15 rebounds last night. Kevin Durant, 29 points. Clay over his season average. Steph Curry had 22. Better field goal percentage, Golden State last night. Better three-ball percentage, Golden State last night. Better rebounding last night, Golden State. Who had more assists? Golden State. Who had more points in the paint? Golden State. Golden State's not playing poorly. This series has been determined by who's got the dog in them. Who's the alpha? Who's directing traffic late? It's all Chris Paul. Check, 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 check. We can't figure out valuable. It's not that difficult. Westbrook and Harden are talented. Valuable? Chris Paul's valuable. Yesterday, by the way, was a huge award day in the NBA. First, second, third, all NBA teams. It's very, very exciting. Now, you know I'm not much of an award guy. Never been an award guy in my industry or other stuff. I don't know how many awards Tom Brady has won. I don't care. I couldn't tell you how many touchdown passes. I can tell you he's been to 8 Super Bowls and won 5. Here's the all-NBA first team. James Harden, LeBron James, his 12th. Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard, and Kevin Durant. There you go. Not a big award guy. I do, of course, have one exception. I do hand out the coveted Golden Brick Award for the player who most dented the rim during the NBA regular season and postseason. Now, I've given the Golden Brick Award out a couple of different times. The previous 2 winners were Russell Westbrook. Sorry about that. Well, we are handing out the Golden Brick Award for these playoffs to James Harden. John, let's hear it. Congratulations. Missed his last 23s. His three-point percentage last 2 playoff seasons, 29%, worst in the entire league among playoff performers. And can I just say this? Isn't it interesting when Westbrook's not getting the calls and hitting the shots? Doesn't bring much else to the table. Harden not hitting the shots, getting the calls, doesn't bring much else to the table. Now, does he? A couple of days ago, I've been saying this all week, and I've been getting a lot of pushback, that last year, Westbrook MVP, if you suggested LeBron, people yelled at you. We went to the playoffs, and Westbrook went kooky madookie. This year, Harden's the MVP. If you even suggest it's LeBron, people yell at you. We go to the playoffs. Harden's MIA. We are in such a rush to anoint somebody else the most valuable player in this league. I put a beard on Westbrook. You yelled at me, screamed at me, mocked me, laughed at me. Am I crazy? There's no similarity, sort of, kind of, little. They are absolute stat monsters in the regular season. But above the shoulders, their games, shots don't fall in the playoffs. They're not that valuable. In fact, I would argue right now, James Harden has been a little bit of a liability for Houston. A liability. There, I said it. All right, the breaking news, and it is substantial. If you're just tuning into our show, Chris Paul's out for Game 6. It changes stuff. Golden State now favored by 10. Vegas obviously had a feeling this was going to happen because we got in this morning, and they were favored by 10.5 points. I think Golden State evens up the series. I don't think Chris Paul's just a player. I think they're funneling everything through him. That's why we're seeing a little less iso ball. We're seeing a little more passing. Could not be happier for Chris Paul. So Chris Paul's out Game 6. Now, early in the series, Andre Iguodala has not played. Klay Thompson was a little banged up. I don't think Steph's at 100%. I think he's close now. Nobody in Houston wanted to hear excuses. Well, here we go. Now they've got to deal with the biggest injury so far in the series. Chris Paul is out for the Houston Rockets. And I got to tell you, this is the way sports works. It's not glamorous. When they write the book on LeBron James, the first or second chapter better be, he never got hurt. He never got hurt. Just think of this. Just the last couple of seasons. Steph's missed games in the playoffs. KD's missed games. John Wall's missed games. Kyrie Irving's missed games. Westbrook, has he missed games in the last 2 years? I don't think so. Chris Paul now has missed games. Kevin Durant's missed playoff games. Rudy Gobert, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Love. I mean, LeBron never misses games. It better be the first or second chapter in the book on LeBron. He's never hurt. 15th year, 16th year, never hurt. God, it's incredible. Chris Paul out game 6. Man, there is a quarterback in the NFL that has every right to roll his eyes and fire back at his team. Plus Dahntay Jones. Also have Cuttino Mobley, Jason Whitlock on our show today. Don't be the guy wearing the long, sloppy-looking untucked shirts. GQ called untuckit.com perfection. Get 20% off untuckit.com, code HERD, H-E-R-D. Can I just spend 2 minutes on this with Aaron Rodgers? The Packers signed yesterday Mercedes Lewis. I like Mercedes. Went to UCLA across the street from where we're at. Good dude, have him on the show. But he's 34 years old. The Jags let him go, and he's not caught more than 25 passes in 6 years. He's now a blocking tight end. Of course, Aaron Rodgers wanted Jared Cook, and they let him go. And he wanted Jordy Nelson, and they let him go. And he doesn't have a true running back because they don't draft him. And they've let 3 really good offensive linemen go, like Josh Sitton, T.J. Lang, and J.C. Treader. They've let them go, and they let 2 corners go a couple of years ago, and one of them ended up with the Chargers, and he's a Pro Bowler, and you get the point here. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have an owner. That's the problem. Everybody loves that Green Bay's the one team in the NFL that doesn't have an owner. They're owned by the community. You can own stock if you're a local landscaper or a mailman. I don't want a mailman getting an opinion on my team's roster. Green Bay's become the little old lady at the antique store trying to get a deal. They're the Captain Frugal of the National Football League. The reality is I like owners. Bob Kraft, Stan Kroenke, Jerry Jones. Yeah, they got egos. Jeffrey Lurie in Philadelphia, Ziggy Wolf, Arthur Blank. I like owners. Because owners are billionaires, and they relate to guys who make $150, $250 million. They take them on their private jets, and Aaron Rodgers can say, can we go draft a running back? And they're sipping some champagne in a private jet because they're going to a concert on Nantucket. And that's what Tom Brady does with Bob Kraft. And they get stuff done, and they get players, and they make moves, and they have a relationship. The NFL is a relationship business. I like an owner. I don't want my team to be owned by a community. I want my team to be owned by a billionaire who has a relationship with the quarterback. So if Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers don't see eye to eye, I know who's more valuable of those two. It's Aaron Rodgers. And I like Mike McCarthy, and I like Bill Belichick. But you ain't winning those Super Bowls without Bill. You're not winning them without Brady, and you're not winning that one without Aaron Rodgers. Coaches are number 2 in this league to quarterbacks. If the quarterback is Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or Troy Aikman or Terry Bradshaw or Brett Favre, the coach is number 2. You can find another coach. Good luck finding another Troy Aikman and Steve Young and Joe Montana. You don't have an owner. You know, who does he run with? Who does he hang with? Who does he complain to? Who does Aaron Rodgers sit down with and go, that's why he's constantly passive aggressive on radio stations. Who does he go to? Who does he scream at? Who does he yell at? This is why he goes on 102.9 The Hog, Milwaukee's best rock, and has to complain passive-aggressively.
Draft night, where are you going to be?
I don't know. I couldn't even tell you when the draft is.
You're not going to be perched on Mike McCarthy's right shoulder, helping him or telling him who you need on your side of the ball this year?
I think it's pretty clear that players play and coaches coach and personnel people make their decision. That's the way they want it.
By the way, no other quarterback takes those passive-aggressive shots. You know why? Because they have an owner, a Rooney, a Kraft, a Jerry. Talk to people. It's a communication business. He doesn't have an owner. Only good thing about that interview was on my favorite rock and roll station in America, 102.9 in Milwaukee, The Hog. Other than that, nothing there made me happy. Canada's best rock, Rush, on 102.9 The Hog. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow The Hog. I'll give it a shot. Big news of the day, Chris Paul will miss Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Houston Rockets released a statement saying he has a right hamstring strain and will be reevaluated when the team returns to Houston, which should be Sunday. He is going to go with the team, but he has already been ruled out. No timetable given for his return. There's no extra days off. Game 7 of that series is Monday.
Yeah.
Colin, so the line this morning for Game 6 went from -10 to -12 because Vegas kind of knew he wasn't going to play.
Right.
But they got confirmation.
They hedged their bet and got confirmation.
Sure. Do you want to guess what some books are already posting as the line for Game 7, which is in Houston?
What?
-12.
So they're Vegas.
Which means Vegas doesn't think he's going to play in Game 7 either. That's the Warriors as a 12-point road favorite.
Oh, wow. First of all, listen, Vegas knows something. Vegas knows something. I'm sorry. And it's like guys, they call it insider trading in like New York on the stock exchange. Well, what is insider trading? When these private equity guys, these brokers go to lunch in Manhattan, they're talking. Is that insider trading? There's all sorts of shared information that it's probably illegal at some level, but you can't get a wiretap on it. I'm sorry, but for Vegas to do that with all the money in sports gambling, they know something.
Also, if he was ruled out for tomorrow's game already that quickly, that tells you it's severe. Like, they're not even going to give him a chance to warm up and see if he can play on it. How is he all better by Monday? I don't.
By the way, here, what's interesting about this? So the Rockets are only playing 7 guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's how the playoffs are going. Yeah. So Mike D'Antoni, they're only playing 7. He's going to have to play a guy that he didn't feel comfortable playing 1 minute. He's going to have to play a guy like a Ryan Anderson for 22 minutes. Oh, who's the other guy? The Luke
Mbah-a-Moute.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably get minutes.
He's injured, so he's not even 100% healthy. So Mike D'Antoni was not comfortable playing Ryan Anderson or Luke a second, and now they're going to become. Actually, Luke's a pretty good defensive player, isn't he?
He is their best defensive player, one of him and Tucker. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That is. First of all, I've never seen that. A line switch like that. First of all, if Harden was missing, I'm not sure the line would be -12. It would be. If I had Chris Paul and Eric Gordon and Clint Capella and Mike D'Antoni, that wouldn't be -12. But by the way, I think they could go to Golden State. I'll say this. If Harden was out for 2 games, I'd still like Houston to win at home in Game 7. Gordon's played great. P.J. Tucker's played great. Chris Paul's been great. Capella has not been great, but they're only playing 7 guys. I could live without James Harden. I got Eric Gordon. I can't live without Chris Paul.
So speaking of that, Mike D'Antoni was asked about the injury after the game last night, and obviously you could tell there was a chance he wasn't going to be playing. So D'Antoni made it very clear that other guys are going to have to step up. Here's what D'Antoni said.
Wow.
We'll see. He'll be evaluated tomorrow. But obviously you saw him limp off, and he's a tough guy. So they'll do whatever they can do. If he's there, great. Good for him. If he isn't, we have enough guys, and it's time for somebody else to step up. We got plenty of guys over there that will have some fresh legs, that's for sure. So we'll be all right. Yeah, but we just got to continue what we're doing, and then we'll find that way.
He's making fun of his own rotation.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't have a lot of Chris Pauls. This has been such... Listen, man, Chris Paul is one of those guys, and I think maybe this is the case, that Blake Griffin's more fun to watch than Chris Paul. Of all the great players in the NBA, let's be honest here, and I love Chris Paul because he plays defense, high IQ, tough, gritty, leader. He's not, of all the great players in the NBA, let's just take guards. Ben Simmons more fun to watch. John Wall's more fun to watch. Harden's more fun to watch. Donovan Mitchell's more fun to watch. Most guards are vertical. They're explosive. They're dynamic. Chris Paul's just great. Yeah. He's not a fireworks show. And so a lot of fans for years and years have sided with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. Man, he has just taken this series over in the second half.
And finally, some football news. According to a report, Le'Veon Bell, the Steelers running back, is seeking $17 million a year from the Steelers.
Oh.
Now, he's been their workhorse. Over the past 2 years, he's accounted for 32% of the Steelers' offense.
I know.
He also already, this year, is the highest paid running back in the league by a large margin. This year, I believe he's going to make $14 million, $14.5 million. Second highest paid running back makes $8 million. So I'm not sure why he thinks he should make more than twice as much as anybody else.
Yeah, that's, of all the guests I've ever had on this show, Le'Veon Bell is one of my all-time favorites because I thought he was going to come on this show and he was going to demand this. He was so funny.
He was fun.
He was really funny, and he's an impossible guy not to. You like him if you talk to him, and I'd pay him a lot of money, but again, this is not baseball. We got a salary cap here. 17 large for a running back is a ton. Even the best running back. By the way, Tom Brady now is making about $17 million a year.
Right.
He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Car shopping's confusing. A lot of different terms. Invoice, dealer price, list price. Here's what's not confusing. New or used car, go to TrueCar.com. Save $3,000 potentially off MSRP. He played 13 NBA seasons. He won a title with LeBron James and the Cavs in 2016. Drafted by the Boston Celtics, so he knows both of these teams very well. It's Dahntay Jones joining us here on a Friday in the Herd. Next hour, Cuttino Mobley, Jason Whitlock. You know both these cultures. I would imagine. Can you explain to me this?
I was traded on draft day.
You were traded on draft day?
Yeah, I was traded to Memphis on draft day. So I can't. I cannot take the credit of.
So
being
you
a
didn't even
Boston
get to
Celtic.
stay at like a Marriott in Boston?
Nah, not at that point in time in my life.
So Boston has been tonight. The Cavs, LeBron play, and Boston's been great at home, struggles on the road. Players sometimes say, "We like when you were with LeBron." Does LeBron like playing on the road?
I think he cherishes those moments to be able to have that adversity because you have a whole crowd that's on your back and it's not rooting for you. So it's a different experience than being at home. Like some people don't like to be loved. Some people like to be hated and gain a different type of energy off that hate and that atmosphere.
Tell me guys you've played with that you thought in a strange way cherished the road more than home.
I enjoyed the road more than home. I know personally, I think like a person like Chris Paul enjoys the road more than home because you see the guys who don't go to the cheering of the crowd, like, you know, some guys who are at home and they go to try to pump the crowd up. Those guys are just playing a game. They just are in that moment. They're not worried about the home atmosphere, if you can understand what I'm saying. So then those are the type of guys that enjoy the road because they like the adversity. They like the people screaming at them and
they like the noise.
Negative connotation. Like they like that. They like that noise, not for them. Those moments where you can shut a crowd up and you can silence them and make them seem like you take the life out of them.
I mean, Boston clearly gets rattled on the road. I mean, they're losing. They're out of games 8 minutes in. With a great coach, with good young players, with smart players, a nice offensive system, they're out of games 8 minutes in.
That's just youth, and there's nothing that they can. It's not a quick fix for. It's just experience. It's just getting used to how they react in those type of situations, and I think that's something that they cure really fast because those guys are extremely young, but they're extremely talented, and they work hard, and they seem like they play a little bit harder in Boston with the crowd behind them. Like they give a better effort, and they have more confidence. They take the same shots, but they seem more confident taking them in Boston, and it's working for them.
So Chris Paul's out. What's your first reaction to that?
Their most valuable player on that team is out for that game. But it scares me too for Golden State because now you have to prepare for a different type of team. So now you get that old James Harden that is good for 1 or 2 games in the playoffs of putting together a special performance to lead a team.
Not 7.
Not 7, but for 1, he can put a performance out there that can destroy and demoralize a team. And you never know who's going to step up in another capacity. You look in the regular season when guys go down, like a San Antonio team when guys go down, and then those guys that are on the bench come in and win it and pull out and win a game because it's a different dynamic that you have to coach for. So all those adjustments that you in the past 4 or 5 games that you put together, now it's this total different game. You cannot prepare for CP now.
Listen, I got a call from somebody yesterday that's from Chicago, and he was a big shot, and he said, "Hey man, I was listening to the other day." He goes, "You do realize Michael Jordan, Rodman, Pippen, Harper, those guys were nasty. The late Bison DeLay." He goes, "If you think this group of Warriors that got pushed around by Houston," and he said this a day ago, so he didn't even see last night. So I'm watching Golden State last night, and if you look at the box score, Dahntay, Warriors won everything. Rebounds, points in the paint, fast break, 3-point shooting, free throws, assist. They won everything. KD scored 29.
But we had this conversation before. I told you this. That chip on the shoulder that the Rockets carry is what is going to push them through the series.
It's what's winning the series. It's not that Golden State's playing lousy.
Right. And it's something to say for when you want to get what someone else has, that's a different mindset that you have. And you can see it in CP. Like, even when he shimmied on Steph, like it wasn't out of fun in the game. It was kind of mocking him, and like it was a mean shimmy. It was like he's trying to get something out that has been suppressed for a long time, and he has a different motive than Steph. Steph's just trying to win another championship. He's trying to win his first. He's trying to play for his legacy, and that chip is what's helping him get through this.
When you were on Cleveland, there's always been this thing in the league where, and it's kind of fascinating, when Michael ran the league, everybody respected Michael. Didn't have to love him. Bird, Magic, even LeBron, like it's understood. Even Westbrook players are like, yeah, man, the guy plays. But there's always been this thing with Steph. He's small, he's fragile. Kind of players roll their eyes on Steph. If Golden State, with Chris Paul out, if this Golden State team loses this series, I think we look at Golden State differently. We've always looked at them as smart and skilled and great passing, best shooting team. What if Houston wins this series without Chris Paul?
If Houston wins this series, it shows you that they're a collective of great individuals. It's not a one or two person man team. It shows you that Andre Iguodala is an integral part of their team. It shows you that health plays a part into the winning a championship and getting all the way to June. It shows you that this winning a championship thing is really hard. It's not just, you can't just put the ball in one person's hand and get it done. They have the benefit of guys that complement each other and great personnel. And that's what, if they lose, they lost a piece that helped them win a championship, was a finals MVP, and they lost one of their best defender. They lost their quarterback, and it hurt them in ways that you can't quantify on the score sheet.
If Ron Harper couldn't play, MJ, Pippen, I don't think they'd lose to Utah.
If Pippen couldn't play.
Okay, Pippen's way better than Andre Iguodala.
Right, but.
I mean, come on.
But you don't have a Jordan on that team.
Well, what I'm saying is I got KD and Steph and Clay.
And they all play different roles. Like Andre Iguodala, why I say if Andre Iguodala goes down? Because a part of Pippen is in Andre Iguodala, where I can guard multiple positions where you don't want to get my switch. Like they're trying to get a switch, they're playing pick and roll till they get the right switch. So you try not to go to Andre Iguodala. You're doing everything. So you're playing different games within a game with him on the floor.
Boy, this doesn't sound like a dynasty. So I have Kevin Durant, Steph, Clay. I got Draymond. I got Steve Kerr. But you know what? We don't have Andre Iguodala, so we can't beat Houston. Michael Jordan's team had injuries.
You're talking about a guy who was a max player on the market, who took a demotion to the bench and took it in stride and didn't care about a stat.
I like Andre Iguodala.
Or a number, and played a role to win a championship. And
I like him.
And when big moments happen, he makes big plays and he does whatever it takes to win to win. So what I'm saying, he's a part of that team that's integral to win. Like, they are a team. They are one of the greatest teams of all time. We can't put pressure on them all to be the greatest of all time. We can put a pressure on them to be a great collective.
That sounds like we're just giving them a pass to me.
And it was health, too. They were healthy in most years. Now their health is kind of creeping up on in different capacities.
Let me tell you something. Think about this. So their first championship, Kevin Love and Kyrie get hurt.
Oh, Mike Conley got hurt. Name all the people down the line that got hurt.
Kawhi Leonard,
right,
Rudy Gobert 1 year.
Right.
Now you're going to have no Kyrie and Gordon if you get to the finals against Boston.
But that's a part. You health/luck is a part of winning a championship for anybody.
Okay,
period.
yeah, but Michael Jordan still. Dan Marley, Kevin Johnson, and Barkley were all healthy. Peyton and Kemp were healthy.
That's just like you're right. I got a better team than you, and we're healthy, and you're healthy.
All I'm saying is Golden State's got some real breaks on health. Good God, they're going to lose. Houston's losing the MVP of their team, and they lead the series. Right. Golden State's gotten some real. Listen, I like Golden State. I know Steve Kerr. I like him. But, man, this team has gotten I understand where people, because the Bulls were so popular and LeBron so popular, and I understand, like, Golden State adds, Kevin Durant, and some people are like, this is the worst. I understand the hateability with Golden State. It's a little bit
I get you. I totally I get that part of it, but they're one of the two proven commodities in our NBA right now. The one is LeBron James.
Yes.
You don't bet against LeBron James, and you don't bet against a healthy Golden State team. A healthy Golden State team, not just Golden State, a fully healthy Golden State. You don't bet against them.
Okay.
And when
right
they meet
now
in the championship, then you just go with what you like.
I want a prediction. 3-2 Boston leads.
Right.
Okay. Who do you like in the series?
I still like the Cavs in the series.
Okay.
In Game 7, I just think there's nobody else in the game right now that you would pick for a Game 7 than LeBron James.
Yeah, LeBron's the greatest Game 7 performer statistically of all time.
So I have faith that they'll pull out one tonight. Do I know how? I think they'll put something together as a collective to win tonight. But when you get LeBron James coming to your building for a Game 7, there's no other person on the planet that I would pick over him to win a Game 7, so I got to go with them.
Okay, Houston now without Chris Paul, Warriors.
Does Andre Iguodala play?
But good God.
Because I think part of him sitting tonight is that he gets healthy for Game 7. So if Andre plays at any point in time over this next 7, I think that changes the dynamic of the series. I think they have a better chance with him on the court. But if Andre doesn't play, I'm taking the Rockets. It's not a clean cut because injury plays a part into this.
Yeah,
so
but Chris
CP
Paul's
not
way
playing,
better. He's way more valuable than Andre Iguodala is. You're giving the Warriors
on the
pass.
defensive end. I wouldn't say it, but I think he is supremely valuable to that team. That's why I say like James Harden should be number 2 in the MVP rating because he got a Hall of Fame point guard in free agency. So we got to give executive year to Morey, and you just added some supremeness to you, a chip defensive point guard who can get his own shot and keep everybody involved, and he's shooting a great percentage from 3.
I think Chris Paul's
so is it more James? Is it more that James got Chris?
It's more that James got Chris.
Okay.
This team got blown out and they quit last year. Listen, I'm a Chris Paul guy.
And Chris Paul, you see who's leading the charge when things get bad for James. Chris is trying to get James some momentum, trying to get James to play.
Yeah, he's yelling at him.
Give him some of his chip. He's trying to lead where that may not be James' biggest strength is in leading. He's leading with his play, and he's leading with his emotions, and he's leading with his words. Like, he's trying to be everything for that team, and that chip is what's gotten him to this point in life and has made him special.
Good God. If Golden State doesn't win now, I'm not – and, here's the way I'm going to say it, John. If Golden State can't win this series, and they'll win the final, if they can't win this series without Chris Paul, they're not a dynasty. There's another word between great and dynasty I'll figure out over the next 2 weeks.
Right.
There's a space there for a new word.
Dynasties are people who are internally motivated and carry a chip and just want to dominate the world.
Dynasties win multiple titles.
Right, and to win multiple titles, you have to have a different motivation than just get a title. Some people, like Kevin, probably just wanted a title. His personality seems like I want to get a title. I want to be a champion. Or do I want 7? Or do I want 8? Or do I want to beat teams to a point? Dynasties want 8, and they want to beat teams to a point, and they want to consistently prove that I'm better than you on a yearly basis and get better and better. Some people just want to be a champion.
Yeah, I may think totally different about Golden State in 5 days. I'm going to come up with it. John, that's our weekend assignment.
So who are the dynasties though?
MJ,
Magic, Bird, all their personalities.
Tim Duncan.
All their personalities were of just destroy, like ultra competitive.
Kobe.
We don't have ultra competitive people except for Draymond on that team.
Jesus. If Golden State can't win this series now, when Chris Paul's out, I don't want to hear about Andre Iguodala's injury. I don't want to hear about it. You got Kevin Durant healthy, Steph, Clay, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr, the system. When you have that many good players, if Ron Harper missed the Utah Jazz finals, could Michael Jordan use that excuse? Nah. If Pippen's a Hall of Famer, Ron Harper's not a Hall of Famer. Ron Harper was a nice player, wasn't a Hall of Famer. If Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan are playing together, I don't want to hear about, I'm not even going to give you Steve Kerr was hurt, Jim Paxson was hurt, Horace Grant was hurt. I don't want to hear about it. You can have an injury. Andre Iguodala is an injury. You can't have Kevin Durant, Clay, Draymond, Steph. So you have the world's best big shooter. You got the world's best shooter. You got Klay Thompson, who's the best shooting guard in the league, and Draymond's going to be eventually be a borderline Hall of Famer. And Steve Kerr is a Hall of Famer, either as a coach, a broadcaster, a GM, or something. And the skinny jeans team, the suburban American team, the Silicon Valley, here's all our social causes. We're smarter than you. Can't beat Houston without Chris Paul. Well, Andre Iguodala was hurt. Are you kidding me? That's like Amazon or that's like Facebook saying, listen, we had a down quarter. We lost a couple people in marketing. Not good enough. Zuckerberg still in the house? All right. You still got that webpage thing working with Facebook? I don't want to hear about a guy in marketing took a vacation. By the way, the Warriors did announce Andre Iguodala questionable. To me, it's like, I'm done. I don't want to hear it. Houston's got to deal with the... By the way, look at this number on Chris Paul. If you don't think Chris Paul is valuable, look at this is incredible. In 58 games with Chris Paul, the Rockets lost 8 times. With 24 games without him, they lost 9. Don't tell me James Harden's the MVP of the NBA. He's not MVP of the Rockets. He's not MVP of their backcourt. Chris Paul is the MVP of this playoff. I mean, let's be honest about the playoffs. You think LeBron's going to win tonight? What was the big question in the playoffs? We knew the West was better than the East. The big question is, can anybody beat Golden State? Well, there's one reason they're beating Golden State. It's Chris Paul. He's the MVP of the playoffs. Well, what about LeBron? LeBron's trailing in the series. He's not facing a dynasty. The only question we really had in this playoffs, most of us thought, I had LeBron and the Cavs beating the Celtics in 6. We thought LeBron, we didn't think this was a very good supporting cast for LeBron, but we thought LeBron would get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then when Kyrie got hurt, we're like, yeah, they'll kind of figure out a way. The only question in the playoffs was, who's going to beat Golden State? Nobody can beat Golden State. Well, they're beating him because of one guy, Chris Paul. He's out. Golden State, I don't even know. I won't even think of them the same if they can't win this series now. I won't. By the way, the Miami Heat, when they had LeBron and D. Wade, did we consider that a dynasty? Don't you have to kind of win a third? Like, I think San Antonio with Duncan was a dynasty. Shaq and Kobe dynasty. Magic Lakers dynasty. I don't consider Philadelphia 76ers with Dr. J a dynasty. They were just really, really good. Not everybody that wins even 2 championships is a dynasty. I don't consider the big 3 in Boston a dynasty. They were really, really good. They won a title. So, I think Golden State, it's my fault. I'm the one that always says, yeah, they're a reigning dynasty. Well, they got one without Kevin, one with Kevin. You got to win this year. Yeah, I'm assuming we're going to get a third title, second with Kevin Durant. They trail 3-2. Chris Paul's out. I'm honestly, if they can't win the series now, they're a 12-point favorite in Game 6. A 12-point favorite. Now, Game 7, we're not sure yet. But in Game 6, they're a 12-point favorite. Part of being what made the Super Bowl so great for Philadelphia is they were a 5.5-point dog. They were facing Belichick. They were facing Brady. That's what makes those New York Giants Super Bowls with Coughlin and Eli so special. Who'd they beat? Beat Randy Moss. Beat Teddy Bruschi, beat Tom Brady, beat Belichick, beat Kraft. That's what makes them so special. Wow. Chris Paul's out. Jason Whitlock, top of next hour. Never had Cuttino Mobley, former Rocket Magic Clipper. Good dude, smart dude, going to be on the show. Looking forward to Cuttino Mobley, best for last hour. Man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, Dahntay Jones and I just disagree on that one. He thinks the Andre Iguodala thing. Listen, let's shift gears to the Celtics and the Cavs. To me, tonight, I don't even need Boston to win. But I'll tell you, I have been so disappointed with the Celtics play on the road. I know LeBron got shelled on the road in this series, but he beat Toronto twice. He beat Indiana in Game 4, and he's got 61 road playoff wins. I don't worry about LeBron if it goes to a Game 7. He'll play hard. Look at Boston's splits. For our radio audience, I'm not going to go through all the numbers. They are plus 11.5 at home and minus 12. That is a 23.5-point swing home to road. They average 109 at home and 94 on the road. That is a 15-point swing. God, Lord. They're a different playing, shooting, defending, hustling team home and away. So I'll take the Cavs tonight. The Vegas spread. Gambling's now legal thanks to the Supreme Court in a 7-2 vote. I can mention the spread and don't get any trouble. Tonight, Cavs are favored by a 6.5, 7, and I will take Cleveland in this game. All right, Jason Whitlock's right around the corner. Cuttino Mobley, best for last. Great final hour live in Los Angeles coming up. In L.A., it's the Herd. This is the Herd. Hour number 3, we're live, baby. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1, Jason Whitlock, 5 minutes. Cuttino Mobley in studio. And in 45 minutes, we're going to have something that blew my mind this morning. We're saving for the end of the show. We do a segment called Best for Last. 40 minutes from now, something that will blow your mind. It is absolutely remarkable. It really shocked me. Got a big laugh out of it. Shocked me. All right, breaking news, the big story. Not only that Houston leads this series 3-2, but Chris Paul's now out for Game 6 and potentially out for the series. Here's why it's a big deal. That Golden State has not played poorly in this series. Kevin Durant had 29 last night. Klay Thompson had over his season average. Steph had 22, and Draymond Green had 15 rebounds. The Warriors had more rebounds last night. They had more assists. They shot the 3-ball better, the free throws better, and the 3-ball better. More assists, more passing. And yet, they're trailing. Why are they trailing? They're trailing because Houston's been tougher and battled harder and has been more physical and has had more dog. If you go look at the key stats last night, this is what has to be incredibly concerning for the Warriors. They shot field goals and three-pointers better than Houston. Significantly better than Houston. They had more assists than Houston. They had more fast break points. Significantly. They had more points in the paint. Durant had 29. Klay had 23. Draymond 15 rebounds. Steph Curry wasn't bad. The Warriors are not playing poorly statistically. All their guys are scoring statistically. And they're losing. And they're losing to me because of Chris Paul. A guy that never got the love in Los Angeles. It was always Blake or DeAndre or Doc or the franchise. He is being the difference. Look at this stat. This is remarkable. In 58 games with him, they have 8 losses. In 24 without him, they've got 9. And with that, I bring on my friend, Jason Whitlock. Speak for yourself, who we rarely get on the show.
Here last week, Colin.
I know. And I demanded to my producers deliver. Your first feeling on, I think Chris Paul's been the story.
No, not remote. I completely disagree with you. I think Golden State's laying an egg. I think Golden State has been baited into playing the style of basketball that everybody in the NBA plays. ISO ball, one-on-one, individual. Mm-hmm. I think last night, I think they had 18 assists. They averaged like 29 during the regular season.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant in 4 of the 5 games has a total of 4 assists. And he's playing with some of the best shooters in the league.
So you don't like the way Golden State's playing?
Not at all. I think they've started playing Houston style of ball, LeBron style of ball, ISO ball, one-on-one, and it's an individual thing. Steve Kerr gave Durant a speech during that game about, hey, man, look for your teammates and all that. And so, the guy who's laughing is Russell Westbrook, watching your boy KD melt down and say, see, it wasn't all me.
You think Russell Westbrook's laughing?
Yeah. Watching KD, he goes, see, that's KD. And again, that's not absolving Russell Westbrook, but it's saying it wasn't just me. And so
I got to give you credit, though. So you are not only a gifted writer, but you're an idea guy, and I think it's one of the things I've said I've always appreciated about you. You make me think. I don't have to agree, but you make me think. You said something before the season and then during the season. So KD came out and got that big Rick James tat or something.
Yeah.
And you said at the time on the show, you said, I'm not sure he knows he's searching for something. And I was like, all right, that's a way to look at it. I don't have a tat myself. So then during the season, he got a bunch of technicals and ejections. And you said again, he doesn't know what he is. He's trying to tell us he's a dog, and he's not really a dog. He's a nice kid. I'm watching in this series. There is a moment with Steve Kerr last night. Steve Kerr tells him to pass. And by the way, he doesn't. That speech was early in the game. He still didn't pass. He had 23 passes in the game, a playoff low, and 19 or 20 passes below his season average. I got to give you credit on this. When I watch Kevin Durant in this series and the technicals this year and the ejections and that Rick James tat or whatever, it kind of goes back to your He's searching for himself still.
Yeah, and listen, I don't mean this in any type of malicious way.
Right.
And for a while, I used to joke and call him Hug Life. And,
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's a little too harsh for where I'm about to go with the conversation. But I just think he's a mama's boy. And
so am I.
But LeBron James isn't a mama's boy. And LeBron James, again, similar situations, or LeBron's probably a little starker, but Kevin Durant very close with his mother. Mother sits courtside, and to me makes too many of the decisions. It's like the same thing I'm worried about with Lamar Jackson. And whereas LeBron James, early in his career, he yelled at his mother for making a scene at a basketball game.
You're right.
And people got upset with him, and I was like, no, man, that's a grown man taking care of a situation and letting his mother know, no, you raised me. I'm out of the nest now. I'm the provider. This is my job, my career,
I remember
my business, my place of work.
LeBron, his mother did create early in his career a scene. And I remember a lot of people
Sit your butt down, he told her, and people were very upset. And I just said, no, I liked it. And that's not a man-woman thing.
No.
That's about a child growing into a full-grown adult, whether it was if it was Brittany Grimes, some female basketball player whose mother was there. I would expect them to do the same thing. When you're grown up and an adult on your workplace, your parents, your uncles, your brother, your sister, your wife, they can't come to your workplace and make a scene. You got to take control of that. So I like that about LeBron. I've just never seen enough of that from Kevin Durant.
I think that's very
in terms of just owning who he is, owning his adulthood, owning his profession. He struggles with that.
Well, it's funny because he left Oklahoma City because he wanted to be more the man, but then he went to a Golden State team that already had several men. And so now he's going back to iso ball, which is the opposite of the style that he pursued going to San Francisco. He wanted to be in a team that passed. Now he's the one guy on the team that won't pass. So there's some confusion again. I think Kerr yesterday was frustrated with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, there's a lack of commitment to the style of play because, like a lot of players, he's bought in and been baited into this individual thing that is so pervasive in American culture and certainly in basketball. It's not a team game the way it used to be.
Jason Whitlock joining me, talented host, speak for yourself, and my friend. So I'm going to throw this at you. I was thinking about this driving in. Is that I know they were hated, but kind of the mantra and the brand of the Detroit Pistons was working class basketball.
Yeah.
Okay. Michael Jordan, Republicans buy shoes too. They played defense. It was working class great basketball. I'm not saying Michael wasn't great. I'm not saying he didn't have some Wall Street. They were tough. Golden State's a very unique dynasty. Social causes, Silicon Valley, smarter than you. They're a new dynasty, heavy analytics. And I don't feel, and because they inherit Kevin Durant, if they lose this series, I think a lot of people are going to laugh at them. Like when Jordan lost it, for a lot of us, it was crushing. When LeBron loses, for a lot of us, it's like, oh, bummer. We fall in love with a lot of dynasties. If Golden State loses, do you think there's going to be kind of a wah, wah, wah?
Yeah, no, maybe, I wonder if it's going to be the equal of when LeBron went to Miami, and there were a lot of people happy.
Too pretty.
Yeah, there were a lot of people happy when LeBron lost that first final series down in Miami. I don't know if it'll be the equal of that, but I do think people, particularly with Chris Paul sitting out Game 6, and he'll probably be damaged in Game 7 if he plays at all.
Yeah.
I think it would be embarrassing if they lost this series.
So do I.
And I think that they will face some serious ridicule. KD at the top of the list.
Yeah, it's funny. I said, just because you win a championship, Big Three, Sonics, Pistons with Rip Hamilton, you're not a dynasty. I can make an argument you can win 2 championships. I don't necessarily think D. Wade and LeBron were a dynasty.
No.
They weren't. Generally, my feeling is Shaq and Kobe, Showtime Lakers, Jordan's Bulls, Bird McHale. You got to get like 2 to 3 to 4 to be a dynasty. Let's say Golden State gets shelled here. So we got one without KD, one with KD. Were they ever a dynasty?
Well, the story will be told. How long do they stay together? You got to remember, Tim Duncan won his 5 titles, I think, over the course of 16, 17 years, and I consider the Spurs the dynasty.
So do I.
They didn't string together a bunch of championships.
Yeah.
And so there was some up and down. And so let's see what happens. Do they stay together for 2 or 3 more years and add a third title? Then I think it's fair to call them a dynasty. But regardless, if they lose this series and don't make it to the finals, or even if they don't win the finals, I think because KD joining a championship team is it just won't be respected. I think them winning that championship last year, not as respected and celebrated if they had won it with the same team the year before. And if they somehow lose this year, again, particularly with a banged-up Chris Paul, not a good look.
There's always an athlete. Finally, Jason Whitlock, speak for yourself later today. There is always an athlete. I try not to root, but I always feel bad for people, Jason, that I know are good, talented, and hard workers, and they got a crazy boss, a crappy boss, or they have an injury. I generally believe if you work hard, you put in the time, and you're a smart, diligent, good person, even in our career, over 40 years, you'll be rewarded. Chris Paul's been the one guy in my last 15 years that I thought nobody got. I'm so happy for him. He had to deal with the circus with Donald Sterling. He had to deal with the NBA couldn't go to the Lakers. Had to deal with, I think, kind of, DeAndre Jordan, a little bit of a head case. Blake Griffin, who's more volleyball player than NBA guy, still can't shoot. Do you have a guy, Chris Paul's my guy in American sports, that I always thought was great, but had to deal with so much dysfunction between personnel, coaching, the league, New Orleans, the ownership.
I don't feel sorry for him.
You don't?
No. I look at Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. Those, to me, were 2 all-time great talents. Freaks of nature, just delivered, and they just happened to play at the wrong time with Michael Jordan. And they were denied titles for that reason. I feel sorry for them. Chris Paul's a very good player, but I think his expectations were he wants to be Isaiah Thomas, from the old Pistons,
right?
And he's just not. He's not that good.
Yeah.
And I don't, as much of a leader and all that he is, he's not Isaiah as a leader. And so he's never been able to, Isaiah played with a quirky Dennis Rodman, John Sally, a little bit cuckoo, Bill Laimbeer, a little bit cuckoo, and he got the best out of him.
Tough guy Rick Mahorn.
Yeah. Chris Paul plays with DeAndre Jordan, a little bit cuckoo. He can't get the best out of him. Some of that is on Chris Paul. It's not all on DeAndre Jordan because, again, Isaiah Thomas made chicken salad out of some chicken stuff that wasn't the greatest. And again, I'm not knocking any of those guys.
You're just saying he's not Isaiah.
Yeah. And so I just, when I start thinking about guys that maybe won't win a title that I feel sorry for, I put Barkley and Karl Malone ahead of him, far ahead.
Karl Malone's on a tractor somewhere in Louisiana. I covered several series when I lived out in Portland with Karl Malone in them. It was never great in the playoffs, but man, I don't think there's ever been a guy in NBA history that scored more of his points on one shot. That pick and roll, he scored.
Kareem had the sky hook.
Yeah, you're right. My bad. No, you're right. You're right. That's number 1. That's number 2. Jason Whitlock, speak for yourself on later. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Cuttino Mobley around the corner. All right, if you've not heard, Chris Paul's out Game 6. It's funny. Charles Barkley kept saying last night, he was like, this game's kind of bad, and it was kind of ugly. Listen, man, there's so many blowouts in these NBA playoffs. If the score is close, I'm not looking for art. Seriously, I was watching the game at half. I was like, I'm entertained. The game is close. I don't need to be blown away by the artistry of sports. If you gave me, you give me, like in the NFL, don't get me wrong, Jacksonville-Buffalo was a bad playoff game. But I don't think the Rams played necessarily great against the Atlanta Falcons, and I don't think the Atlanta Falcons were necessarily great, but it was a wildly entertaining game because it was close and every possession mattered. I thought Golden State and Houston last night, I thought it was a wildly entertaining game. And what is really shocking to me is when you grab the stat sheet after the game, if you'd have not seen the game and I gave you the stat sheet, you would have thought Golden State won by 20. More rebounds, Golden State. More assists, Golden State. Points in the paint, Golden State. Fast break points, 12-2, Golden State. They shot a significantly better field goal percentage, three-point percentage, and free throw percentage. By the way, KD had 29. James Harden stunk. Clay had 23, Steph 22, and Draymond 15 rebounds. That's what worries me if I'm Golden State. Golden State is filling up the box score. They're filling it up, man. They had more assists than Houston, shot better from everywhere, more fast break, more rebound, in the paint. Harden's terrible, and Houston won. That's not good for Golden State. This series is being decided by physicality and toughness. The bad news for Houston, they lost one of the most physical, toughest players in Chris Paul today. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So, Colin, speaking about Chris Paul, Mike D'Antoni just spoke with the media a few minutes ago. CP3 out with a right hamstring strain. Here is what his head coach said.
Well, I mean, obviously it's not something that we wanted or, I hate it for him above all. He's practically won us the last two games. But great opportunity for other guys, and we have plenty to choose from, and we'll be ready.
He doesn't seem nearly as confident as he did after last night's game.
Yeah, Chris Paul, they showed him walking around at shoot-around. He has a smile on his face, but it kind of feels like he's trying to just exude some confidence, and really he kind of knows how bad the situation is. Do they have anyone to step up? Like
Eric Gordon, yes.
Absolutely. Eric Gordon can step up, but that means their bench consists of nobody.
Ryan Anderson,
who has not played in a few games now, I don't think.
Yeah, they're going to have... Yeah, the other guy's hurt. Yeah, there's Chris Paul. He's kind of acting like he's not.
You could tell he's trying, but I mean, he was limping, just walking around. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where they're going to find someone to come in off the bench.
Yeah,
I guess you just listen. If any coach could maybe handle it, it's probably D'Antoni because he runs a system that works. And if some guys can hit some threes, maybe they'll be okay. But I don't know. The Warriors just released their injury report for Game 6.
Oh boy.
Andre Iguodala listed as questionable with his knee contusion.
I don't want to hear that.
Klay Thompson no longer on the injury report. Iguodala in or out? Do you think that matters very much?
Well, clearly they're using it. I mean, if they lose, they're going to use that as they won't use it as an excuse. But people who cover the team. Well, I'm not saying Andre Iguodala is not a nice part of the fabric and the tapestry of this club, but I don't want to hear about Andre Iguodala's departures. Why we lost. Please, you got Hall of Famers all over this place. If Ron Harper was out for the Bulls, if Rick Fox was out for Shaq and Kobe, are you going to get? Oh, Rick Fox missed that Shaq-Kobe finals game. Rick Fox is a nice player. If you can't win without Rick Fox, I think less of Shaq and Kobe. If you can't win without Ron Harper,
I mean, he was a Finals MVP a couple years ago.
A couple years ago, he was old. He's older now. I like him. How many minutes does he play? 18?
I mean, he plays less. He's been playing more this series because he's now a starter. They usually bring him off the bench, but he plays crunch time for them. This is one of those injuries, too, where if he's 25, he plays that game. Because all he did was bang knees with James Harden. But as you said, as you get older, this becomes a serious injury.
Right.
And finally, Colin, we saw this story and we couldn't not do it. Geddy Lee, the lead singer of your favorite Canadian rock trio, Rush, he actually is a big baseball fan. He has a baseball signed by every member of the 3,000 hit club.
Wow.
So Albert Pujols was the most recent player to get his 3,000th hit, and when he was in Toronto, Geddy Lee, that's where he goes to all the games, got Pujols to sign his ball. I don't really have a question. I just wanted the excuse to play you some Rush.
Well, they're Canada's best rock band, along with Nickelback.
Tough competition there.
Well, a lot of people like Nickelback. Is
A lot
Rush
of
still
Canadians like Nickelback.
Is Rush still performing?
Yeah, they still tour.
They tour?
Absolutely. Do you not travel around the country with them?
Listen, I listened to Rush in high school. I listened to this song 36 years ago. Wow.
And just as high then as you are now.
Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Eddie House, Dahntay Jones. Jason Whitlock just stopped by the show, and Cuttino Mobley, who played 11 seasons. Cuttino played with a lot of great players. He played with Charles Barkley. He played with Scottie Pippen. He played with Akeem Olajuwon. He played with Yao Ming. He played with Glenn Rice. He played, I know Rudy T was one of his coaches, Jeff Van Gundy, Mike Dunleavy, Rick Adelman was one of his coaches. He's also a co-captain of a Big Three team, so he'll be joining us in just 1 second. There was a moment last night in that game. We'll play the video once again of Steve Kerr and Kevin Durant. And it's getting talked about a lot by, would you have to give Kobe that kind of speech or Michael Jordan that kind of speech or Tim Duncan that kind of speech? I don't know. But it was just an interesting moment where not only is this little speech by Kerr interesting, but then his reaction later in the game yelling at Kevin Durant is really interesting. But here was the speech last night.
When MJ was with the Bulls, we had a playoff game, and he kept trying to score, and he was scoring, but we weren't getting anything going. Phil Jackson said, "Who's open?" I said, "John Paxson." I want you to trust your teammates early. What you're doing is you're getting to the rim, and then you're trying to hit them. I want you to trust the first guy, and then move. Still attack, still look to score, but trust these guys, okay?
And then later in the game, you can see right there Kerr screaming at Kevin Durant, pass the ball early in the shot clock. So there is last night Kevin Durant had only 23 passes in the game. It's his playoff low, and it's also somewhere between 18 and 20 passes per game, lower than his season average. So Kevin Durant and Steve Kerr, he told him that early in the game, and it didn't seem to actually work much because Durant did not have an effective fourth quarter in the last two games. And with that, I bring on the 11-year NBA player, Cuttino Mobley, all rookie, University of Rhode Island guy. One of my favorite places in the world is Watch Hill, Rhode Island. Taylor Swift, the Ocean House, is one of my favorite places. By the way, my stepson right now is a chef in Providence. So I know Rhode Island very, very well. I love Rhode Island.
I love it. I love you, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I watch you every morning.
That's nice.
Yeah, I watch you every morning, and you're very accurate. Yeah.
Hey, John, did you hear that? When you complain, the demanding schedule, I appreciate that. The guys, we put in a lot of time. Let me ask you about Cuttino. You played with great players. I mean, the Barkleys and the Akeem and the Yao Ming. I mean, you played with egos and these big guys. So right now, James Harden's an MVP of this league. He's going to win that award. Mm-hmm. And Cuttino, he is struggling. I mean, I'm not talking like 1 for 8. He's 0 for his last 20 on threes. When you played with star players, and I mean these are Hall of Fame level guys, and they were struggling. Even Barkley and Akeem didn't have many slumps, but he had a couple.
Right.
Do they have to change their game? Should Harden change his game? What do you do? What did the guys you played with do when they get in these prolonged slumps?
Well, I kind of dissected James' game, and everybody always says that James looks like how when I played. I mean, he shoots a lot more threes. This kind of generation shoots a lot more threes.
Right.
But it's funny because James can post up, right?
He's thick.
Yeah. Well, when I was playing, Kobe, myself, a lot of us guards, we were post guards that can shoot threes, but we had mid-range game, Rip Hamilton, guys like that, Ray Allen. And I just think James needs to, they're running him off the three, or they're really close to him on his threes.
Clay's right on him.
Right on him. I mean, I truthfully think he needs to get into that mid-range to free himself up some, give him a different look. Because there's only a layup or it's a three. So I think you need to kind of, they're anticipating everything. It's like when we were younger, you're playing 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 practice time, and it was just jump shots, right? So defensively, what you're doing is, I know you're not going to the cup because it's just a jump shot game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to contest your every shot and make it harder for you. I think that's how they're playing him. And he's forcing his threes, and he's looking at his wrists, and he's kind of, no, it's not that. You got to mix it up.
No, I agree with you, Cuttino. I think, not that I was ever a even good basketball player, but when I played, confidence is a real thing. I was a shooter. And, I mean, listen, man, it is – rebounding's not about confidence. Defense is about effort, not confidence.
Right.
Steals aren't about confidence.
Right.
Shooting's about confidence. And
it is.
It is. Like, A-Rod's a great baseball player. But, man, you get that stuff clicking upstairs, and it changes you. And I agree with you, I think Harden needs to say, listen, man, I'm a thick, he's a great ball handler.
Right.
He's a beautiful offensive player.
Right.
All you're saying is, dude, get your percentages up here. Feel good about yourself.
That's it. It's like you can get a layup, but let's do some mid-range. Let's do some post-up. Let's do some face-up 15 feet from the basket. Put more pressure on them. Harder for them to double, right? And then now you have that guy one-on-one, and when you face up, they can't touch. So just those little different small things that you have to do. I mean, of course, Kobe would tell them the same thing, right? When you're playing like that and you're posting up 15 feet from the basket, guys can't touch you if you face up. So now if you turn and face up, the basket's right there. You can make a shot. One dribble, you're right at the basket. You can pitch it out, right? So now it puts a lot more pressure on the defense, and he's not doing that. It's a lot more pick and roll. It's predictable, right? So step back three, step to the side three. Guys are right there closing out, knowing what he's going to do. And he's working a lot harder.
Oh, good God.
He's working
so hard.
It's too hard.
That's one of the knocks on Westbrook. Westbrook works too damn hard for his shots.
Works too hard.
So it's interesting. There was a moment last night when Kerr was telling a story to a Kevin Durant. Body language is a real thing. There's something about Durant. Earlier this year, Steve Kerr kind of criticized the team about something, said they were lazy or something, and Kevin Durant, right after Kerr was at the podium, came out and said, I don't think that's true at all. I'm not saying Kerr and KD don't get along, but when I watch this, did Kevin Durant listen to him? What did you make of the body language on this when Kerr's talking to him?
I was talking about that in the back, and going to school for psychology and communications.
You did? You were a psych major?
And communications. Yeah. So for me, I'm kind of looking at that, and first of all, Kevin's a star. He's a superstar, right? So I saw something 2 games ago where he should have kicked it up super early as soon as he got it, and he waited. And then Klay Thompson, when he gave it to Klay Thompson at the end, Klay had a tough shot to make. Now, either you kick it up early and get it back, or you keep the ball now and you be the hero. But he gave it to Klay, which put Klay in a bad position. Now, right. two games later, Steve is telling him, listen, trust your teammates. Give it up early so you can get it back early.
Right.
Which is brilliant. That's what you're supposed to do, right? I was telling the guys in the back, if everybody's paying attention to me like they're all doing right now, they're looking at me, and there's some noise, and the noise is over there, what is everybody's eyes going to do? It's going to look that way.
Right.
So if you pass the ball, everybody's going defensively is going to look where the ball's going.
You can move.
Now you can move. So you get up early and move and do something.
Do you think Kerr and KD have a little issue?
I just think KD's in his head, so he's taking a lot of things more personal than there really is.
Is it hard not to?
It is hard. It is hard because KD's great, right? He's really good. And the pressure is on him that Steph's not having that, monster babyface assassin kind of series, right? Because he just came back, kind of thing. I think his rhythm's not as there as it should be for him. So I think KD subconsciously is like, the pressure's on me now. Houston's attacking us as well. I have to make these shots, not only in the first half, but in the second half. And I got to put everybody on my back, kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know, but I guys, they take it personal. I mean, Phil and Kobe, right?
Listen, these relationships are hard.
That's what it is.
Plus, when guys get rich, this counts for doctors and lawyers and politicians. Yeah. The richer people get, the less they want to listen.
That is so. That is so true.
You play with a young Charles Barkley in Philadelphia. He listens at the timeout. Then you get him to Houston. He listens. Phoenix. He listens a little bit less. That's nothing against Charles. That's the way human beings are. The higher the stack of money, our ears close
Because they think they did it by themselves.
Yeah, and I know everything.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that.
I did it by myself. I was successful, but you forget who helped you get to that point.
That's why, Goulet, I can't pay you, because you'll just be uncoachable. That's always been my theory with you. Okay, so Cuttino Mobley joining us. All right, Chris Paul is hurt. I think it's a big deal. Do you?
I truly do. Chris is he's taking some really tough shots, great shots. He's a great player. And I think with Chris, that's not the first time his hamstring has happened.
That's right.
That's an ongoing thing for him. So for Chris, bumping people, engaging his core, his hammies, his glutes, things like that, I don't think it's going to be one game. And if he does come back on the seventh game, I don't know what type of medicine they're going to give him, but if he does come back on the seventh game, that's going to be a really tough game because he's going to have to really exert himself to become the, superstar, mighty mouse.
And also, Chris is a defensive player.
Exactly.
So you're not one of these. He's not one of these guys playing half the court. That when you're playing defense, man, that is I remember talking to. You ever know who Hersey Hawkins was?
Oh, yeah.
Hersey Hawkins, one of the great scorers in college basketball history, and he was telling a friend of mine one time. He said, "Man, in college, you may only face one NBA guy. You just have to play one end of the floor." He goes, "My rookie year in the NBA, I was like, I was scoring 22 and giving up 26. Like in the NBA, in college, you don't have to play much defense. You don't. If you're a Big Ten NBA point guard, Victor Oladipo, you're not facing NBA point guards.
Exactly. Hersey. I'm from Philadelphia, so I watched him growing up.
Oh, you did?
I love Hersey.
Big Three season debut this Friday, June 22nd, FS1, then televised every Friday on Fox and FS1. So who do you like tonight, Boston or Cleveland?
I have to stay with LeBron.
Yeah.
I love LeBron. I love everything about LeBron.
Thank you.
He's amazing.
I love him.
He's the basketball gods literally they did so well with him. It's ridiculous.
Smart.
Yeah.
Look at his shoulders.
On and off the court, this guy is just unbelievable.
He grew up, I've always said this, the two things that are amazing about him, he never gets hurt.
No.
And go look at his life from 0 to 16. Never been in trouble.
No. And moved 11 times in 1 year.
In 1 year.
All these different things he's done that happened to him. He didn't go to... He didn't go to school for a certain time.
He missed 200 days of school 1 year.
Yeah, because a situation in the family. And then the next year, perfect attendance. Because he was embarrassed from the previous year. This guy's, I don't know where he comes from. He's an alien.
Physically, he's a little like Wilt, which is before your time.
Right.
I only saw Wilt.
Philadelphia guy, too.
Is Wilt a Philadelphia guy?
West Philly.
Kobe was a Philadelphia
guy. It's in the water, just like the bread.
Well, Villanova is tough.
Yeah.
How come Villanova didn't recruit you?
My best friends went there. Alvin Williams, Jason Lawson. Yep, Jason
How come they didn't recruit you?
You know what? I was a late bloomer.
All right.
Yeah, I was a late bloomer. We all wanted to go together.
So you went to Rhode Island. By the way, Lamar Odom?
Yes.
Cuttino Mobley? Ernie DiGregorio?
Ernie.
Look at Goulet.
Diggs.
Dude, Rhode Island had a lot of good players. And I'm telling my audience right now, if it's a summer and you ever got a weekend and you're on the East Coast, go to Watch Hill, Rhode Island. Ocean House. It's my favorite water hotel East Coast I've ever been to. That includes Florida.
Newport's great, huh?
Newport's good, too. I like Watch Hill more. Newport's got that Bellevue Avenue, Rich Avenue.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Rhode Island's an amazing state.
Yeah,
Cuttino, nice meeting you. Back in a second. The most unusual thing in all of sports could happen tonight. That's next in Best for Last. Car shopping's confusing. A lot of terms. Dealer price, list price, invoice. Don't be confused. TrueCar.com, new or used. Save $3,000 off MSRP. Well, we do it every day at this time. Kind of new. We've been doing it for about 3 weeks on this show. We call it Best for Last.
After almost 3 hours, Colin apparently hasn't gotten to the point yet. Quit holding out on us, cowherd. It's the best for last.
So, the Cavs are down 3-2 to the Boston Celtics. LeBron and Cleveland host the Cavs tonight. If LeBron loses tonight, it will be the first time he hasn't made the NBA Finals. This is remarkable. Since 2010. That it's unbelievable. It'll be the first time if LeBron loses tonight. He is not in the finals since 2010, so let's go back 8 years to a bizarro world you won't recognize. Let's jump in the Herd Tub Time Machine.
With this machine, I can go back as far as I like.
The Herd Tub Time Machine.
Okay, we are in the bizarro year of 2010. The most promising young player in the NBA, on the verge of winning an MVP, the invincible Derrick Rose. That's what was happening. The most promising quarterback in the National Football League, having just led his team to a second straight championship game, New York hero Mark Sanchez. The best all-around hitter in baseball, all of baseball, 32 homers, 100 RBI, batting .359, the best average in all of baseball. Texas Ranger Josh Hamilton. The most celebrated athlete in the world, a man respected across the world, across the globe, a true living legend. Pre-investigation, Lance Armstrong. The hottest fad, what was it in all of sports last time LeBron didn't make the finals? The thing that all the cool kids were doing. It was the World Cup. What was that thing called? They were playing the Vuvuzela? That was a big deal. And finally, the most bizarro thing of them all. If you ventured into any Starbucks, there was no such thing as free Wi-Fi. Please take me back to 2010. So there you go. It was a different world. I think about this all the time, is that when you look at time, especially now with technology, it is wild how quickly everything changes. It was just 8 years ago, and it wasn't Andrew Luck. It wasn't Cam Newton. It wasn't Russell Wilson. 8 years ago, Mark Sanchez was who we thought was the next guy. That's the last time LeBron James did not make the NBA Finals. Isn't that remarkable? Michael Jordan came in this league and for 5 years didn't get to the finals. Then for 3 years got there. Then retired for 2 years. Then came back for half a year and didn't get in. Then went to the next 3. Then retired again for a couple. Then came back for Washington for a couple and didn't make the playoffs. I mean, that's a long career. LeBron has made the finals every year, and tonight they are a big favorite, and I'll take them tonight to beat the very young Celtics, who are not the same team on the road. In fact, they win by 11.5 at home, and they lose by 12 on the road, so that is a 23-point swing for the Boston Celtics. The other big news, which is kind of taken over our show since about the 35-minute mark, is Chris Paul's out for Game 6. And I don't think it's been I will tell you this. Mike D'Antoni has taken a lot of heat through the years as kind of being the Chip Kelly of basketball, kind of a one-trick pony. I think Mike D'Antoni's had a really good series. He essentially took the ball out of James Harden's hands in the second half of these last 2 games, and he's put it in the hands of Chris Paul. Now, he's not playing anybody. They only have a 7-man rotation, which is going to be problematic here because you just lost your MVP, Chris Paul. But he's had a really, really good series. Steve Kerr's had a very interesting series, and I'm not putting the blame on him. Late-game execution's been poor for a veteran team that strange. They've had some real clunky out-of-bounds plays. I think Kevin Durant's struggling with some of Kerr's coaching. You know, we always think it's better to have more talent, and there's certainly a line on that. But, you know, the downside to inheriting all these great players is it's different now. I said this earlier in the week. It used to be 30 years ago, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, you had a really, really demanding high school coach, and he didn't take your crap. And he yelled at you. And he created sort of a medal around you, a chip on your shoulder. Then you went to college, and that coach didn't take your crap either. And you stayed for 3 years. because your parents wanted you to get, the degree, or, the culture just wasn't one and done. And then you go to the NBA, and that guy gave you nothing but heat. Basketball today is different. Your high school coach is irrelevant if you're a great player. You have an AAU coach, and he recruits you and gives you swag and takes care of you, or you'll go play for another AAU team. And then you go to college, and even if it's Mike K., Coach K, or Dean Roy Williams, or John Calipari, or Bill Self, they're kissing your butt because they're praying they can recruit you. They're showing you all sorts of love. And then when you get on campus, they're praying you stay for a second year. So it's butt kissing. And then you go to the NBA, and players now, even rookies, make so much money, more than coaches, with very few exceptions. That guy's kissing your butt. So by the time now a player gets to be Kevin Durant, he's got stacks of money. He's been entitled. He had an AAU coach that worshiped him and recruited him, a college coach that kissed his butt, and an NBA coach that knew if he gave him flack, he'd get fired. I mean, Scotty Brooks won Coach of the Year in Oklahoma City. They ran him out. Coach of the Year in the NBA, Dwayne Casey. They run him out. They keep the players. They keep Kyle Lowry. They keep DeMar DeRozan. And so my whole point is, you're getting players now that are harder to coach. They've had their butt kissed forever. They're harder to coach. Steve Kerr's talking to Kevin Durant. I don't think he's listening.